Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Procrastinating Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. It is a cool, calm, peaceful Sunday evening, April 3rd, in Indianapolis. We're another sports-centric episode this week. I apologize if that's not your favorite thing, but that's where mine's at now, and there are a lot of big sports going on, as we discussed last week with the Final Four. So both Final Fours have happened. And we're now teed up for the national championships. In fact, one of them, the women's national championship, is going on right now as I speak. Tipped off 14 minutes ago at 8 p.m. Also, I worked 2 baseball games this weekend, including a softball game. So baseball is on my mind, and I did some thinking today, and I wondered, why the hell is baseball considered America's pastime? Baseball is a miserable sport to watch. Miserable. I would say it's sometimes worse than golf. It is just painful. It goes way too long. It's just a mess. So I don't know where it really came from. Why do we love baseball so much? I don't really get it. Let's look more into those national championships and why we love baseball in this week's episode of the Procrastinating Podcast. Thanks for watching. Okay, so this may be a shorter episode, we'll see, who really knows, but let's get into it nonetheless. So the Final Four, we discussed it last week, and it has already taken place. It took place over the last 2 days, and the national championships are decided. On the men's side, we have University of North Carolina versus Kansas, and on the women's side, we have South Carolina versus UConn. North Carolina, I am surprised that they beat Duke in the Final Four game against Coach K in his last Duke team, his last game ever coaching the game of basketball, I believe, unless he switches to youth basketball or something like that. But Coach K's career is officially over. That's weird to say because Coach K he basically is Duke University in my head. But they lost to the longtime rival North Carolina Tar Heels, and they advance as an 8th seed to the national championship to play the number 1 seed Kansas Jayhawks, as they beat the Villanova Wildcats in the other Final Four game pretty comfortably as well, by 15 to 20 points maybe. It was calm. Easy money. North Carolina are an 8th seed, as I mentioned, and I think that their luck is running out. They are North Carolina, a blue blood program, one of the bluest blood programs there is in the whole entire nation. But Kansas are a team, dog. They are a well-furnished, well-oiled, moving machine, basketball machine. They know what they're doing. They know the game they play. They know how to score points. They know how to take advantage of their teams with their own play. They're a dangerous team. So I think North Carolina obviously are going to have their work cut out for them because they're playing a number 1 seed in the tournament. That's it. It's the national championship. You're going to play a great team. But I don't think they're going to have the star power to really keep up with them. I mentioned I did a newsroom show, a webcast show this past week, and I did a Final Four segment, actually. And Remy Martin, he transferred to Arizona State to Kansas this past summer, taking advantage of the transfer portal like many other athletes across the country. And he came up huge so far for them in the tournament. And he has been big, specifically against Creighton and Providence. Huge. 20 points and 23 points off the bench, respectively. Huge performance from him. And that's the kind of performance you need to see from players in the national championship. So he's going to have to do something similar to that, I think, to keep them in the game and give them a chance among their other star power. But I'm saying basically, if he contributes what he has off the bench, it's going to be exactly what the Jayhawks need and make their chances of winning only greater. As for North Carolina, Caleb Love dropped 28 points in the Final Four game. Huge performance from him. Honestly, somewhat surprised me. He was a big recruit coming out of high school. I remember hearing about him. His name was Caleb Love. That kind of sticks with you. He stayed with North Carolina a couple years, the tough Roy Williams years at the end, and now it's paid off as he stayed with a new coach and is in the national championship, I believe as a sophomore, I apologize. He is a sophomore from St. Louis. He has been huge this tournament, having a 30-point game and an almost 30-point game in the Final Four against Duke, of all people, hitting clutch free throws down the stretch to win them the game. 4 clutch free throws to be exact, maybe 3, but huge from him. Absolutely massive. So if he performs like that and their big man, Armando Bacot, performs as he has been, He had 15 points and 21 rebounds in their Final Four game against Duke. 21 rebounds. And in the game before that, he had 20 points and 22 rebounds. 43 rebounds over 2 games is ridiculous. Some teams don't even get that. And Armando Bacot, one player, had that in 2 of the biggest games of his career. RJ Davis is another factor of the North Carolina squad. He is a ball handler. He is not their coach Hubert Davis' son, although I thought he was. He is just another Davis. But he has been huge for them in the tournament. He played a massive role in their Final Four game against Duke, coming up big and scoring huge points. He had 18 points and 7 rebounds and 4 assists against Duke. Massive. 50% from downtown. Huge performance of him. And they're going to need something exactly like that from RJ Davis, Caleb Love, and Armando Bacot if they want to have any chance of winning this game. But Kansas are an incredibly physical team, so I don't know if that's really going to be doable, as they love to crash the boards and clean the boards and have out-rebounded every team they played so far this tournament by an average of almost 12 rebounds per game, which is just sheerly incredible. That is just dominance on the boards on both ends of the court. And when somebody controls the boards like that, they really end up controlling the game. So North Carolina's going to have to put a stop to that. And Armando Bacot is going to be the main man doing that job. Really, it's going to be tough for them to step the challenge. Let's see if they're built for it. I'm going to put my money on a North Carolina Jayhawks win. Although at this point, Kansas Jayhawks win. At this point, though, North Carolina are the 8th seed, so it would be fun to see them get the upset because upsets are always fun. And for some reason, I don't like Kansas. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's their color scheme. I don't know if it's that they're in Kansas. I don't know if it's Bill Self. I don't know if it's that silly little Jayhawk. I don't know what it is, but something about them just rubs me the wrong way. They seem slimy somehow, and I'm not sure what that is, but I'm just suspicious for some reason. Ultimately, though, I think they'd be national champions because they're just a squad. They're a goddamn squad. Now let's switch over to the other side of things, the women's side. South Carolina versus the University of Connecticut Huskies. Gino Auriemma, basically the Coach K of women's college basketball, if not a bigger legend. They have 11 national championships, 22 Final Four appearances, including, well, with an asterisk, 14 straight Final Fours from 2008 to 2022. Only missed one in the year of 2020 when there was not a Final Four. As I was doing research for this episode, I was looking at their Wikipedia page, going through their statistics and like their Final Fours appearances, the national championships and things like that. And I noticed something that was just sort of astonishing to me. You know you're a good team when your accolades and years that you like accomplish something like a tournament champion or conference champion or whatever else. You know you're a good team when they list not just the years that you did it, but in those listings, there's just a time frame. For example, 2008 to 2019, they made 11 straight Final Fours. Maybe that's 12. 11 straight Final Fours. And just the fact that they can measure your accomplishments in just like a time frame of years rather than going year by year, you had that strong of sustained excellence and quality that you were able to get your own time frame of winning. Not the year we did great and the year we went far and the year we stunned the world, but you have a time frame. A frame of time of several years, including several national championships in a row, where you dominated and not manhandled, woman-handled the game of college basketball. There is no other dynasty like the UConn Huskies, perhaps in sports. At one point, they had won over 100 straight games. That's not 100 straight road games or 100 straight home games. That is 100 straight wins across all competitions. And this stretch occurred from 2013 to 2016. So in their national tournament champion wins, when they've won the tournament, they have the time frame of 2013 to 2016 blocked out from when they won 2013, 2014, 2015, and 2016 national championships all in a row. They haven't won one since then, but they won 4 in a row, meaning if you were a freshman at UConn in 2013, say you're on the basketball team as well, you won 4 national championships, meaning you won a national championship every single year you were at school. I leave a moment of silence for that because that is stupid, people. That doesn't make sense. The physics of sports, the physics of March Madness are not built to support that, and this is something that happened in the world. And that 2013 to 2016 timeframe is not the only timeframe that they have in their national championship wins. They also won 20 in 2002, 2003, and 2004. Just sheer dominance. I mention all this dominance, and they have great players like Paige Beckers, who's maybe one of the most exciting and best players to come through women's college basketball in recent history. But they play the South Carolina Gamecocks, who are a damn good team. They are the undisputed number one overall team coming into the tournament, have really been the number one overall team throughout the whole entire season, won a national championship back in 2017, and really since then have been sort of on a tear. That was their only national championship, although. So compared to the likes of UConn, weak sauce, but respectful nonetheless. And as I mentioned, since then they have been a team that is right there every single year, making several Final Four appearances since then, and multiple Elite Eight performances almost every year, making the Elite Eight. They are a dangerous team. They have a powerful defense, an intimidating defense that is relentless and typical, I think, it feels like South Carolina fashion. Fearless and relentless with their defense. Also, a attacking, high-powered offense, which has struggled to shoot in previous games in the tournament. First two games especially, they shot under 30% from behind the arc. In one of those games, they shot in the 20s for their overall field goal percentage, which is just not great. So if you were to look at the teams just based on their dynasties and their history, you would think North Carolina's going to win this no problem. But SCAR are nothing to laugh at. They are a good team. They're a really good team, coached well, ran well, high energy, high passion. And those things, high energy and high passion, can really sneak up on you in certain moments and give you the edge to win in times when you didn't expect you would really have it. And I think that makes them a very dangerous team. But there's one stat that I would like to refer, which may get jinxed, but I would like to refer to this one stat from North Carolina. So they have 11 national championships, which is just a stupid amount, as I mentioned. But they have been to 11 national championship games. That means, obviously, every single time they've been to the national championship, they have won the game. They are 11-0 in national championship games. Now, I don't know about you. I don't know if you know a lot about numbers or a lot about stats, or if you're into any of that. But let me just tell you, 11-0 is pretty good. That's not a lot of losing. And these games aren't just any games. It's not like they went 11-0 in the preseason. They went 11-0 in the biggest moment in the year when it matters the absolute most. They showed up and delivered 11 out of 11 times. And who are they coached by? One man, Gino Auriemma. And he is still their coach, and they have the surefire star power this year. I mention this because I think under Gino Auriemma and with star power like Paige Beckers that they have, among others, she is just the most famous name out of their lineup. They have plenty others, let me tell you. Teams that are 11-0 don't really get beat that often, clearly, as they don't get beat at all. So I'm going to predict the UConn Huskies to go and win their 12th national championship with Auriemma. I don't know if he has all 12 national championships of theirs. It may be one way back in the day that he didn't win. So we'll say he's going to go 11-0 in national championship games for the UConn Huskies and win them their 12th national championship, which, again, just a stupid amount. Also, SCAR, I guess maybe this should be thrown in there. SCAR did win their last matchup against UConn earlier this year in November, 73-57. But UConn was only down 3 points going to the fourth quarter. So we'll see who wins out down the stretch, who makes the right plays at the right moment, who makes the least mistakes. Again, put my money on the UConn Huskies and Gino Auriemma because anything else would be a silly bet. Now let's move on to baseball. Baseball makes me think, because I played baseball growing up. I played Little League like every other guy, and I loved it. It was a wonderful time, and I was pretty good at it. Baseball, honestly, was probably my best sport growing up, and I played a lot of sports. To toot my own horn, I'm pretty athletic. So I think a lot about baseball. I have a weird relationship with it. I love it on one hand, but also on the other hand, I know it has a somewhat miserable existence, and it is just painful to endure. And baseball is referred to as America's pastime. If you don't know, you should know. It is referred to as America's pastime, and I am not totally sure why. Obviously, because it's been around for a while, but I didn't really get it. So I figured, let's do a little bit of research, dive into baseball as America's pastime, and figure out, where did this delusion come from? Where do people get so caught up in the great sport of baseball that they like to sit in the sound for 4.5, 5 hours watching a stick and a ball go around, and maybe not even go around. It could just be pitching the whole entire game because the offense can't get the bats going. Where did this come from, and why is this thing? I don't know. Let's take a look. Baseball started back in the 1840s, at least that's when it became common, shortly before the Civil War. And where the Civil War is where I think the America's pastime kind of stems from. Because America, throughout history, sort of at times mirrors America and what we need, or our deeper values that maybe we don't think about as much. So it started in the 1840s. Just in small towns, and the Civil War came about, and many players played it in the Civil War as sort of I would imagine, a distraction of sorts from the actual action of the Civil War, because many people died in the Civil War. It's our bloodiest war in history, and family members died. You lose all of your cousins, and I imagine several families were just decimated by the Civil War. So it was good. I guess it was good the soldiers took some time to take a stick and a ball and hit it around the diamond, you know? So that's really where it cropped up, and after Civil War, a lot of those people that played the game took it back to home to their towns and spread it around, and it was sort of a community bonding after a painful, painful war. A war hero, Abner Doubleday, was actually credited as the original founder of baseball, which I don't know if is actually true. That may not be true anymore, but at one point he was credited as the founder. I only mention that because the name is Abner Doubleday. First off, dope name. Abner, dope. Doubleday, double dope. The only way it could be better is if his last name, instead of being Abner Doubleday, was Abner Double Play. Strictly because that's a baseball reference, and that's kind of silly, but like, it would just make it all that much better, because Abner Doubleday already a sweet name. If you make it Abner Double Play, I don't know, I just think that's funny. Abner Double Play, the guy who invented baseball, Civil War hero, that's a good story. World War I and World War II were also definitive for baseball. In fact, many times during war, baseball players have left the league to go go serve in the military, such as Ted Williams. He's probably the most famous. I think Joe DiMaggio also went to the military, was dating Marilyn Monroe, so he was just a celebrity, and it was somewhat surprising that he went there. Like, that's beautiful to me. That is beautiful. And I'm not like here for like crazy patriotics. Go fight for the war, protect America, keep them out of our country. World War I and World War II. I mentioned a lot of players played or served in the military, one of which was Ty Cobb, who is the second all-time in stolen bases. I apologize, fourth all-time in stolen bases with 897, almost 900. Crazy amount. He served in World War I along several others, including a guy named Christy Matheson. I mentioned this because they were high-ranking officers during the time. They actually led training exercises, one of which was mustard gas was very popular at the time, and that was very bad for you and could malform your face and burn your body from the inside if you were to inhale it. Ty Cobb and Christy Matheson were teaching this drill of sorts for training for the military involving poisonous gas. And the soldiers had to go into a room where I believe they must have been exposed to very light levels of a poisonous gas, but exposed to poisonous gas nonetheless. Christy Matheson and Lou Cobb were in the room, and they got somehow trapped in there. They were able to escape with their lives, but only barely. Ty Cobb, as I mentioned, went on to be, at the time, the leading base stealer of all time. He had minor damage from the incident, could have died from it. Christy Matheson, on the other hand, was not as lucky as good old Ty Cobb. He unfortunately had some serious damage and ultimately ended up passing away from TB. I mentioned this, it's not a happy note, but I mentioned this because he was a powerful, I'm assuming a well-known professional athlete. He goes to serve in the military, leads the team, sort of a team, in drills for war, gets trapped in a poisonous gas room as a professional athlete, and later dies of tuberculosis because of that during his military service. Just a weird story. Again, not a happy one, but weird, you know? Also, a huge thing involving baseball and wars, A League of Their Own. If you haven't seen it, it's a great movie with Gina Davis and Tom Hanks. During World War II, America was dying for baseball. They needed baseball. They needed some entertainment. Because for the longest time, baseball just entertained the whole entire country. It was America's pastime, unfortunately. Not a good way to pass time. But anyways, a league of their own started, and the women had their own league, and it was kind of the league for a while, unfortunately, until the men came back. But at one point, America was struggling so much for attention and for something to grasp onto, to give them hope or something, that they were losing people to war. So many people were fleeing the country and going to other places to fight for our country and keep our freedom alive, that we decided, hey, women, there's a lot of you around because all the men are at war. What do you say you suit up and we play some ball? And they did exactly that. The women, unfortunately, were used and abused throughout the process, highly sexualized throughout it because the league was obviously started by men. But it also gave them an incredible platform, and some of them respectable professional athlete careers. In fact, of course, when you get a field of athletes together, some are going to step up better than others, and there are some legendary baseball players to come from the league of their own. Dorothy Kamenchek is the like LeBron James, Babe Ruth of the women's league. She was played by Gina Davis in the movie and is just known as sort of the best women's player, head and shoulders above everybody else. She could do everything. She could pitch, she could run, she could catch. She was pretty, she was tall, she had long legs. She was everything they wanted in a baseball player, and she was really good. I don't know, I just like that the women got their chance in the spotlight when the men were out of town fighting the war. In my research, I stumbled upon an article from a Bleacher Report highlighting some of the reasons that baseball is better than football, which I don't agree with. But anyways, two of the things, we're just going to highlight the two of the things. The article said no time limit is the advantage of baseball. And this is where I think they're absolutely delusional. Baseball goes on for too long. A typical baseball game is anywhere from 3.5 to 4.5 hours. That's pretty standard. And if you get any shorter than that, that game was moving pretty quick. 9 innings is way too many. It just takes too fucking long. Especially if a team is on a roll or the game's just moving slow. It just drags on and on and on. It's like watching paint dry. It's just miserable. So I have a proposition for the MLB if they're listening. Robert Manfred, I think that is their commissioner. How about we change it to 7 innings, pal? Let's shorten it up. Let's get these games wrapped up in 2.5, 3.5 hours, huh? Doesn't that sound nice? Hey, actually, I'm not gonna even leave it there. Let's hear me out. Hear me out. I know you're backpedaling as soon as I said that, but hear me out. 5 innings. Not 9. Not 7. Not 3. But 5. You're getting games done in sometimes just over an hour, sometimes 2 hours, maybe sometimes if it's a really long game, you're pushing 3 hours. But that's at the absolute max. That sounds pretty good to me. 5, it's still that odd number that you want for some reason, you know. Everybody gets their chance to hit home and away 5 times. That's plenty, enough for each finger. Just make it faster. It's just painful to watch. They need to speed it up. They also said there's a longer schedule. The games, it keeps the season goes on and on. It's a long, hard fought battle. There are 162 games in an MLB season. They play 162 games in 180 days, which that is a feat. I will say that. That is impressive. 162 games in 180 days is crazy. That's a lot of baseball really fast. But baseball isn't the most physically demanding sport. So, like, playing that many games it takes a toll on your body, for sure. Don't get me wrong. But also, like, compared to other sports, not really. So the games are 9 innings long and last about 4 hours, and they play about 7 million games in a season. Why? Why is this so long? Who decided all of this? Let's make games 5 innings and seasons 60 games. That way, every game matters, every series matters, every inning matters more as well. You condense it all down so it's less piddle-farting around, wasting time, standing on grass and dirt as people dig holes in the outfield, kids eat hot dogs, and nothing happens all at the same time somehow. Let's just crunch it all. Let's just mash it all together and call it baseball. And then I'm in. I don't know about you, but personally, I'd watch that version of baseball so much quicker, and I'd be so much eager than 162 games that are all at least 9 innings. That is absolutely miserable. The only great thing about baseball, only thing I will hold on to, and perhaps the only redeeming factor about baseball, which can save all the others potentially, on its day, it saves all of the others. The ballpark atmosphere is something that is somewhat unmatched on its day. Because you can go to a baseball game in, let's say, early May on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, and it's like a 2 o'clock game, and there will be, in a 40,000 seat stadium, there will be literally 2,500 people if the team is bad enough and the fans don't care enough. There will be almost nobody there, and it'll feel like an empty stadium, despite being a professional sporting event. Yet another example of why there's too many games and it goes on too long. So just get rid of those games. Play games at better times when more people watch them. Nobody wants to watch a game at 2:05 on a Wednesday. Change it. Who's going to that? 12 moms and their kids? Maybe? And all the wives and girlfriends of the players, and that's it? Change it. When it's all bumping, when everybody's feeling it, enjoying the warm weather, it's not too hot though. You feel it. You can actually smell it. You can smell the summer air. You know what I'm talking about. You can smell the warmth in the air. The sun is going down a little bit. There's multiple colors in the cloud because the sun is going, or in the sky because the sun is going down. The lights have turned on, but it's still daytime. You can see the lights slowly, their influence on the field slowly growing as it gets darker and darker. And as the sun goes down, the mood in the stadium changes, and people can come down from the bigger seats closer to the field and get more into the game as well. And it's just kind of a community aspect as well. There's not much better than sitting in the nice sun and experiencing all those things, eating a hot dog and having a nice cold pop with you. So the baseball, I'm sorry, but to me, home runs in the baseball park atmosphere are the only thing that sort of redeem baseball. So I guess, actually, now that I say that, America being America's pastime, I love passing time sitting in baseball stadiums, just watching baseball go by, except for when it's a dead baseball game, and that happens frequently. So I kind of contradict myself there, but screw it. That is it for this week's episode of the Procrastinated Podcast. It's a bit of a longer one, but I kept talking. I felt good about the information I was spewing out. I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you in next week's episode of the Procrastinated Podcast. I have been your host, Matthew Stein. You've been fantastic, as always, of course. You know what it is. See you next week. Have a great life. What? Peace out.